Hello, everyone. Welcome to tonight's My Journey webinar. My name is Candace Lytle, and I'm your host for this premier event in our My Journey series. We're so excited to have you here, and on behalf of everyone at ACT, thank you so much for joining us. I'm honored to be joined by our incredible expert speakers tonight from Collegewise, but before I turn things over to them, I want to cover some essentials to help enhance your viewing experience. You're going to see several widgets and tools on your screen. You're in control of these. They're resizable and movable, so you're welcome to move them around to get the most out of your screen space. If you have any questions during the webinar, you can submit them through the Q&A engagement tool, and we'll do our best to answer them throughout the webinar. Plus, we'll have some time for questions at the end. A copy of the slides is available in the resources tool, as well as some other handy items to accompany this presentation. The webinar will be recorded and sent to the email address you registered with within 1 to 2 weeks. For the best viewing experience, we encourage using a high-speed and stable internet connection and closing any programs or browser sessions running in the background that could cause issues. Webinars are bandwidth intensive, so anything to conserve your bandwidth will help. If you find everything still lagging or the sound stops working, try Control F5 or a hard refresh. If you're struggling with anything, check out the help tool at the bottom of the screen. And finally, if you need a refresher on any of this, there's a helpful webinar viewing tips and reminders slide at the bottom of your screen as well. And that will remain invisible throughout the entire webinar. If you need anything else, click the On24 Help button at the top of the screen. Okay, I'm ready, and I hope you are too. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to our friends at Collegewise so they can tell you a bit about themselves and jump into admissions insights. I'll pass it off to Belinda.
Can you hear me now? Okay, I'm so sorry, everybody. I do not know what happened there. Technical glitch. Let me start again. So I'm Belinda Paris. I'm the Director of Partnerships here at Collegewise, and I've been working in the global education space for over 20 years. And in my role at Collegewise, I get to work really closely with fantastic organizations like the ACT and schools and school counselors all around the United States to help bring our college preparation and admissions expertise to as many families as possible. So we are just so happy to be invited to present these webinars by the ACT and to reach all of you families who are and educators who are here tonight. So as you know, tonight is going to be all about high school and extracurriculars. And we have our esteemed college admissions counseling experts here, Hanifa and Anita, who are going to dive into all of the details very, very soon. They're going to be providing an overview of some of the most important factors that you need to be considering through your college application journey, so that hopefully you can leave this session feeling really confident with a lot more clarity on your next steps. So in a moment, I'm going to tell you a little bit more about Collegewise, but first, we want to know a little bit more about you, and that's really going to help us tailor what we're presenting to you this evening. So I'm going to launch a quick poll now. And the question's really simple. Who is joining us today? Are you a parent or guardian? Student, maybe you're a family here together, or perhaps you're a counselor or educator. I'm just going to leave that open for a couple more seconds. Make sure you hit the submit button so that we can see the results. All right, let's see where we're at here. Okay, so we've had, okay, excellent, let's see. All right, so we are looking at, okay, so we have a nice balance of parents and students here with us tonight. Okay, almost even split actually, and also educators and counsellors. Okay, so that's helpful. We are talking to everybody. Good to know. Very good to know. Okay, so I'm just going to tell you a little bit more about Collegewise, and then we will get into the meat of the presentation. So Collegewise is a college admissions counselling company with a really strong philosophy to be the most trusted source of expert advice to help students access the transformative powers of higher education. And you can see that there, that's our mission. There is a lot of noise out there in this space, a lot of noise. So it can be really hard for families to know who to trust. So our goal is to be that source of truth for families. So we do things like research, we publish papers, we attend conferences, so that when families come to Collegewise, you know you're getting the most up-to-date information that will really help your students to be less stressed and ultimately more successful in this process. So what does that actually look like? What does that actually mean? Well, there are three main ways that we help families. The first is that we offer hundreds of free resources, tonight being one of them. So lots and lots of webinars on all sorts of different topics that families can dive into to learn more and become more educated on the process. We also publish ebooks, guides, and white papers on all sorts of admissions related topics. Most of these are very hands-on practical guides to ensure that students, parents, and educators have information that's really going to help students apply that information to their own journey. We also have many of these free resources that are available on our website every day for you to access. So if you haven't already checked out our website, do take a look. We welcome you to utilize as much as you can. Additionally, on the resources section of this webinar tonight, there are also a couple of resources and links through to our website. So yes, definitely check that out. Okay, so that's the first way, lots of free resources. The second way is that we do work one-to-one with students. So college admissions counselling experts, like two of them that you will meet later tonight, they work with students through the entire process, sometimes starting in middle school, all the way through to hitting submit on those applications. And then the final thing that we do is that we work with a lot of schools and nonprofits and other community organizations to provide resources and work, supplement the work that's being done by these great organizations. So that sometimes looks like us coming in and doing one-to-one counseling with those groups. Sometimes it looks like us providing workshops, essay writing, application boot camps. There's a whole range of things that we do with schools and community groups to make sure that we're providing help in that area as well. We started in 1999, and since then we've helped over 30,000 students one-to-one, and that doesn't even include all of the students that we've helped through our work with schools. So once again, I want to say thank you for being here tonight. We're happy to help every single one of you who is joining us here as part of our mission to reach as many students and families as possible with this expert advice. All right, so I think that is enough talking from me for now. I'm going to hand over to our wonderful presenters to introduce themselves and take it away.
Thank you, Belinda. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm Hanifa Abdul. I'm a college counselor with about 8 years of experience with college admissions consulting specifically, but almost 20 years of experience in higher education in multiple capacities, including academic advising and teaching. I'm currently based in Maryland, but I work with students across the country and also internationally to help students find their best college experience. My own college experience started with attending Swarthmore College for undergrad. I chose the small liberal arts route. I loved my experience there, and it really confirmed for me that it was a space I really wanted to be in and to help other people to be in as well. So I went straight from there to a graduate program at Columbia University in New York City, a totally different environment. And from there, I moved on to academic advising at different universities, including the George Washington University. So my personal and my professional experience spans across a lot of different kinds of academic environments. And throughout it all, I've really enjoyed getting to see different students have their own unique experiences as they move through the process. But one of the most important things that I've learned from it is that the way that people prepare before they come to the college experience really affects the experience that they have once they're there. So in my current capacity, I really enjoy being able to talk with students and families like yourselves to really help you to make the most out of your high school years in order to not only prepare yourself for college, but to really explore what you are hoping to gain from that experience. And so from here, I'll pass it on to Anita.
Thank you so much. Welcome all. So glad that I could spend some time with you tonight. My name's Anita Doddi. I live in the Chicago area in the suburbs, but I grew up on the East Coast and went to a small liberal arts college, Williams College. Like many people, I didn't know anything about what I was doing when I did my college search. So my dad and I just went to go visit schools, and it was really fun. Along the way, I realized that I really liked campus communities and college life. So I decided that I would work in colleges and universities after I graduated from college. I spent a few years working a few different positions at a few different places, really loved what I did, and then had kids of my own. I currently have a senior in high school, so I really understand this parent piece. I also have a sophomore in high school. So along the way, I kind of shifted from being in that college setting. I was doing a lot of academic advising. I did a lot of student leadership development, really loved all that, but then switched over to Collegewise, and I've been here for about 5 years. Previous to this, I was at a different firm. And I've really, really enjoyed it. I love to say that I'm a matchmaker. I know lots and lots about colleges and universities. I've spent a lot of time touring campuses, reading up on campuses, talking to students about campuses. It's been really fun. So my job at Collegewise is really to get to know families really well and then help them find those best fit schools. And really help make sure the students are presenting themselves in the best way possible. So it's been a lot of fun. I love working one-on-one with families and really getting to know everybody so that we can make sure that there are options. And at the end of the day, that is my goal for all of my students. I want students to have good options. I want them to understand that every option has a pro and a con. There's no perfect college. There's no dream college, but there are a lot of great schools out there that would be a great fit for you. And that's really what my philosophy stems from, just making sure that students have options. And I really want to be a mentor along the way. So that's a little bit about me. I do want to go on and talk about our agenda first. So we've kind of got two parts of this presentation. We're going to first talk about the academic pieces and really what it is that students are making choices about when we talk about the course curriculum and what kinds of things that they need to do to prepare themselves for college. The second half of the presentation is more about those outside activities. What are students doing to build other skills outside of the classroom? So you can see in the agenda, first we're going to start with big picture. What is holistic admissions? Then we're going to go to the academic pieces, course selection. Then we'll get to extracurriculars and what you might be doing there, talking about summer breaks or other types of breaks that you might have. And then we'll end with working with Collegewise. We will have Q&A towards the end, and so you're always welcome to put questions in the Q&A box. We'll try to answer as we go along, but most of them will be done at the end, I think. Okay. So first, holistic admissions. What does this mean? It's a very foreign concept for a lot of people because you don't hear about it unless you do college admissions, really, and once you get to that high school piece of that admissions. Holistic admissions means that there's not this like cookie cutter approach to how we're approaching admissions. It's not just based on stats, but it's really based on the whole student. And we're trying to say that there's a lot of different factors that will come into play. The 5 factors that admissions officers are looking at are listed on the screen. The first and foremost is academic transcripts, not your GPA, but what classes did you take? How did you do in them? If you did poorly one semester, what did you do the next semester? Did you continue on? Did you switch courses? Admissions officers kind of read transcripts like almost like a story about you. What kinds of choices did you make and why? Next is standardized test scores. We could spend days talking about test scores, and that's where ACT is so great. So I hope you join them more to talk about test scores and what they all mean. Most schools right now are still test optional, but if you've got a great score, why not submit it and help yourself out? There's a lot of different policies and procedures around test scores that I'm not going to get into, but know that testing is a factor for some places. And it's not just ACT or SAT, but also AP scores or other or IB scores or other tests that you might take in high school. The third part is extracurriculars. Like I said, Hanifa's going to talk more about this in the second half of the presentation. The fourth piece, letters of recommendation. Most colleges want to see 1 or 2 teacher recommendations from students. They really want to know, what is the character of this student? Are they a good student? Do they come to class prepared? If they're struggling, do they talk to the teacher? Do they work well in groups? So that's the kind of thing that they're looking for in those letters of recommendation. And then finally, essays. We spend a lot of time working with students on essays because depending on the number of schools you apply to, you might have quite a few essays to write. And there's a very, very different type of writing that most students do in high school. It's really about you. What do you bring to the table? Tell us some stories about you. How did you get interested in a certain major? Or what kinds of leadership have you exhibited and what has that taught you? So they're very personal questions. They're not academic writing. So those are the 5 big pieces. Certainly there are other things that might play into admissions, but these are the 5 big core areas. So let's talk more about academics. So why is the academic piece the most important piece? Because first and foremost, every admissions officer must say, is this student going to thrive at our college? Are they prepared to do the work? Are they ready to be open-minded and deal with challenges or setbacks? Are they curious about learning? How are they going to do here? It's not just about the grades, but are they going to contribute to the classroom setting by participating in discussions, for instance? Are they going to be able to go to class and really feel like they're making a contribution and learning and taking something away from that classroom experience too? Are they going to, get professors to be mentors? Are they going to mentor other students? These are all important pieces of that academic piece. And again, they're looking at that transcript to say, what is that preparedness? If you have gone through high school taking, the most academically rigorous classes and doing well, then great. Maybe you're going to apply to a more selective kind of college. But let's say you've gone to high school and, you've done more average course load, but you've done well, or maybe you struggled in a couple of areas, then maybe we need to think about what that list is going to look like for you, because we want to make sure that any admissions officer who sees your application says, hey, I really want to admit this student. They're really prepared. They're going to do well here. They're going to graduate in 4 years. They're going to not, they might have setbacks, but they're still going to rise and be able to deal with them as best as they can. So that's the academic piece. And certainly when you get to college, you're going to have a lot more harder classes. You're going to be on your own a lot more. So you have to have a lot of independence and self-motivation. And they're really looking for some of those things if they can find them, in that transcript or in your recommendations. So how do you pick classes? Really, we start by saying, let's look at the big picture. What are the state requirements? Every state has different requirements. I'm in Illinois. PE is required for all 4 years. That is part of the graduation requirement. So we make sure that a student is taking PE for all 4 years. In other parts of the country, that's not so true. There are also different kinds of state requirements in terms of, how much science or math or other things that you need. The second part is school requirements. And each school has some flexibility to say that these are things that are important to us. Most public schools kind of follow the state requirements, but we see private schools sometimes have their own requirements. And we have to make sure that a student meets all those requirements. The third part is your own specific needs. So you might be ready to take on really challenging courses, or maybe you're not ready. What is it that's going to give you the most balance? Maybe you've got a big commitment outside of school. You're taking care of family, or you're involved in a sport. We want to make sure that the classes that you're choosing are good complements and good balance to the rest of your life. And then number 4, actually the last piece is your college list. So if you are aiming for certain kinds of colleges, it is in your best interest to go to their admissions website and say, what are they expecting me to have? I'm going to be really honest and say, like, a school like MIT, which is so high level, they don't have pre-calculus or calculus. They're expecting you to come in with all that already. And so they start very high level math there. If you are going to, a different type of school, they might expect language requirements, for instance. Maybe they're expecting you to take a language there or to pass out of a language requirement. Most places will say they want 2 years of language, but we prefer 3. Some places will say we want even more than that. So it's really important to look at that college list if you know there's certain schools that you really want to go to. Go to that admissions page and see what those requirements are. Okay, a little bit more about planning. So everyone at Collegewise does this with our counselors, all of our families. And certainly most school counselors will do this with students in school. So it's what we call the 4-year plan. I like to think of it as the other side of the transcript. The transcript is what you end with, but the 4-year plan is what you start with. We really plot out things. You will see that the first 5 areas are what we call the core academic requirements: math, science, English, social science, and world language. Those are usually core requirements. Almost every college wants to see at least a couple of years in those areas. Most colleges will say they want to see approximately 3 years math, 2 to 3 years science, 4 years English. You can't compromise there. 2 to 3 years social science, 2 to 3 years world language. There are some schools, like all of the University of California system, they ask for a full year of fine arts requirements. There might be other schools that ask for other types of requirements. So there's a lot of choices here, but you also have to think, like, how does it all work and fit together? One thing we often tell students is a lot of colleges recompute your GPA. So they might recompute your GPA as the unweighted GPA, so with no honors, no AP, and they might count up the number of honors and AP classes you have. And they might say, oh, your school doesn't offer honors or AP, so you don't have any? Great, whatever. That's not a big deal. But your school, maybe another school, offers like 40, almost all of the AP classes. And if you haven't taken any, they might say, did you challenge yourself? Or, maybe you took a few. And so, you have to be aware of challenging yourself to some extent, but not so far that you're doing poorly. And that's, again, a balance thing. And you have to think about what other classes you've got. So, for instance, some students will say, oh, senior year, I've got a lot of room for electives. So, let me take some things for fun. Or other students will say, oh, I'm really excited about engineering, and there's an engineering elective at my school. Let me try it out freshman year just to see if I'd like that or not. So there's a lot of options. I often tell students, I know about the national curriculum, but it's really important that you talk to your school counselor to say, what are the options at my particular school? And school counselors can be really helpful at saying, like, oh, we know this engineering class is coming up next year, or we're offering, something new, or actually this class isn't going to be offered because the teacher's retiring. And these are important things for you to note. Okay, so what are we getting to with all of this? Why you have a lot of decisions to make. What should you consider as you're making those decisions? First, rigor and prep, right? You want to be prepared for college. And like I said, you want to challenge yourself, but not so much that you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm doing poorly, or your confidence tanks, or your mental health tanks. We don't want any of that. But you want to be able to be realistic about, what are you juggling at home, at school, activities wise, and whatnot. In college, like I said before, colleges have different requirements. And when you get there, you want to know that you're prepared for that particular school. They might have very specific requirements that you want to look at and make sure that you're prepared. And then finally, a lot of this is not about getting into college, right? This is all about your skills and your interests. You're taking different classes, you're doing different activities. What does this say about you? What are your favorite classes? Do you maybe want to study that more? Are there certain things that you're learning about that are really interesting? Or the things you want to learn about, but that your school doesn't offer? How are you going to build your own skills? How are you going to see your own values? How are you going to see your own interests? And these are things that also come up in your college application. So these are some of the things that admissions officers are looking for. It's not just the GPA, like I said. What classes did you take? How did you do in them? What choices did you make? And for you, you get the chance in high school to be very intentional about your choices. There are some requirements, but you also have within that some leeway. So with all of that, I am going to leave off academics for a minute, and I'm going to have it shift over to Hanifa, who's going to talk more about extracurriculars and activities outside of the classroom.
Hi, thank you, Anita. So extracurriculars, this is one of those areas, one of those aspects of college admissions that I often see students and families stressing about because there's an idea that there's a very specific way to do this. And so one of the first things that we do in the counseling process is kind of unpack what exactly is considered extracurricular. A lot of times we'll find that people have a very specific idea that it is a school club, it is a sport, it is a specific job or research or internship opportunity. But really, an extracurricular or activities that you would share in your college application is really any way that you've chosen to spend time or to devote time to outside of your classes, something that's not part of your school curriculum. So while it can be all of these things, the awards that you win for certain things or very structured opportunities or summer programs or, things like that have official titles and official meetings, it can be other things like hobbies that you invest a lot of time into, like informal gatherings or projects that you do with your friends. It could be independent study, ways that you choose to learn more about something that you're just curious about, or a problem in your community that you chose to help solve. And so when we think about extracurriculars, really we're starting with what are the ways that you choose to spend time and choose to give your energy and contribution to outside of what you're doing in class. So what is the significance of extracurriculars to the process? This can actually be a really key part of a holistic admissions process because your extracurricular activities are a way to demonstrate some of those characteristics that admissions officers can't pick up from the transcript or from test scores that are just numbers and grades. This is where you can show what are the things that you actually do care about because you've chosen to spend time with them and was not required of you. It can show your leadership skills. It can show your ability to solve problems and also the way that you interact with other people in your community. And so this is a great way to demonstrate those interests. And a lot of times admissions officers can use this information in order to really get an understanding of if I bring this student into our school community, right? They want to know more about who you will be than just what you'll be like in class. So if I invite you into my school community, how might this student contribute to our community at this campus? What are the kinds of things the student might be interested in doing? What are the ways in which they may interact with and impact others on their campus and even beyond our campus? And so this can encompass many things, including not just your major, things that are related to your potential major, because this is one of those assumptions that we tend to run into, that everything you do has to be around showing them your interest in a particular major, but it can encompass also your passions, issues that you care about, causes that are meaningful to you, or even just ways that you serve people that are in your family or around you. This is also a way to show a fit with colleges that you're interested in. If you do that kind of deep research to really identify the personality and culture of a school, you may find that there's similarities between what the schools are encouraging students to do, whether that is an intensive research focus or whether that is service to people around them. And and choosing to spend your time in developing those things in yourself can be a demonstration to those colleges that you're a great fit for their community. And also importantly, I've already mentioned this before, but just to go a little further in depth, it is about impact. What are the ways in which you want to contribute to the well-being of the community, of others, to thought and intellect, the culture of a space that you're in? These are the things that you want to be able to demonstrate through your extracurricular activities. So one of the things that can help you to think about the ways that you want to develop your extracurricular profile and the things that you want to contribute your energy towards is to think about the ways that you get to talk about those experiences in your college application. So one of the components of the Common App where you'll be able to apply to most, if not all of your schools, is the activities list. And this is a sample piece of what that looks like. So in the Common App, currently you get 10 spots to talk about 10 activities that you've engaged in from 9th to 12th grade. And for each of those activities, they will ask you for this kind of information about it. In these fields, you'll get to share with them what type of activity this is. So that can include, anything from school clubs to research to volunteering to family responsibilities. You'll get to describe your role. And one of the most important components of this is the space where you get to describe the activity. And the thing that we, really work with students on in this space is that you don't just use this space to say, I did this. It's not a list of responsibilities or what one might do in the role or activity that you participated in, but this is where you would really share the impact of your experience on yourself and on others. What are the things that you specifically did? What skills did you develop or practice in this experience? Who did you work with and get to know or help in the process of doing what you did? This is really a chance to show and tell the story of your motivation and what are the concrete experiences that you've had as a result of those different motivations. And so when it comes to this, we have a few recommendations about that. You want to make sure to prioritize your activities and choose to really share the things that are meaningful to you. One of the things that we want to emphasize is that when it comes to these, there's no set script. So you want to demonstrate quality over quantity. It's not about having all of the same activities as other people that they have. It's not about how many that you had per se, but it's about what you're able to say about what you did in that experience. The other thing is that you want to lean into not only your areas of interest, but also maximizing the things that you're already doing. So think about the ways that if you're already involved in something that's meaningful to you, say, for example, you're in a mental health club at school. And perhaps there are ways that you could step into more leadership. And in this case, you want to think about the fact that leadership is not just a specific role. You may not be president of that club, but what are some projects that you could undertake that would add to the mission of that group or that community? What are some ways that you could educate or create more awareness about certain issues within your school community? Really asking yourself, I'm here already, what are the things that I could do to add to what's already happening? And so this is about demonstrating a proactive approach to your life and to your experiences, and also taking initiative to see what could I be doing, not just what is required of me to do things. And when you make that priority in the beginning, you'll be able to have lots to say when it comes to the part where you are actually applying to colleges and sharing those kinds of experiences with your with the colleges that you're applying to. We want to share with you this quote from Harvard. It's one of those kind of aspirational schools that a lot of people like to apply to. And so it's great to see them share their take on activities and extracurricular experiences. One of the things that they say is that your contributions that you make to not just your schools, but your communities and your families are of interest to them, right? So even beyond the structured spaces, like we talked about, they want you to talk about your contribution to those spaces, and it doesn't have to be something that is exotic or specific. So a lot of times people think they have to all but, cure cancer for it to matter, or it has to be something that just sounds really impressive, or they have to start a nonprofit because they heard someone else started a nonprofit. But really it's about you demonstrating your commitment to excellence and initiative and being empowered to create something, to solve something, to do something unique where you are, in the spaces that you're already invested in the activities that are meaningful to you, and the experiences that will help you to grow. They're not looking for someone who has already done all the things. They're looking for someone who's willing to learn and to grow towards doing the things. And in the process, a lot gets done. And so what they say about that is that such a commitment can apply to any activity in your life, and it can reflect your underlying character and personal qualities. So if you have questions about where to start in terms of, well, what can I put that matters? You start with what matters to you. You start with the skills that you have. You start with the things that you want to learn more about, because learning more about them is an activity. And then once you start learning more about those things, you start to think about, how can I apply these things? How can I connect with other people who share my interests or who can teach me something? And if you answer those questions from your genuine perspective, your genuine interest, you will have great experiences to be able to share when it comes to your college applications. So we want to go through a bit of a roadmap here for how you can approach building a strong extracurricular profile throughout your high school experience. It really helps to start early in terms of thinking about not just, okay, what will college is like, but really starting to think, well, what do I like? What am I actually interested in? It can seem overwhelming because there's so many different options and so many different ways to go, but starting in the beginning gives you lots of time to cast a wide net and get involved in exploring these interests, whether that's joining a club at school that addresses this particular interest, whether that's choosing elective courses that reflect that. Some schools, probably not the ninth grade level, but some schools will allow you to take psychology or business courses, or even some allow you to take more technical skill courses. So really starting to take advantage of the learning opportunities around you to get involved with learning about different areas that you think you might be interested in. And then in 10th grade, you're continuing to explore, but this is where you want to start to experiment a bit more. So you want to start to go a little deeper, perhaps, instead of just learning what all is out there, maybe going further, exploring specific areas so that you can start to narrow down your interests and decide where you really want to go deeper with it. In 11th grade, that's where you want to really hone in on, a few interests or a particular interest that is meaningful to you, and look at ways that you can go deeper with that experience and ways in which you can apply skills in that area, and connect with people who are further along in their study or their profession of or their practice of what you're interested in learning more about. So this can look a lot of different ways. It can be a research assistantship in a particular area of interest. It can be internships or shadowing for if you're interested in medicine, for example. And so this is, or it could be if you spent 9th and 10th grade developing programming skills, maybe this is a part where you start to think of a project where you could use your programming skills to analyze a particular data set or help to solve a particular problem. So this is a part where you want to deepen your skills around that. One of the things that I want to say about this is that some of the pressure of college applications is when students start to feel that they have to make a single choice that they will have to stick with for the rest of their lives. And so it makes people kind of undecided for a much longer time, and it keeps people at a surface level with a lot of different areas, because for each one they're asking themselves, do I want to do this for the rest of my life? Colleges are not looking for people who have it all figured out. They're looking for people who are curious and who are willing to take risks and try things in order to learn more about it. There will be ample time for you to continue exploring beyond those high school years. I think the thing to think about is, what do I want to start exploring? It's okay to share and go deeper with what I'm interested in right now if you're not already sure about what you want to be doing for the rest of your life. So I just want to remove that pressure from it. And then as you head into 12th grade and you're working on your applications, you want to brainstorm how you will present your experiences on the application and communicate them effectively. There's a strategic aspect, right? When we think about, okay, well, what is important to share in a college application? But also that still begins with, okay, well, what did this mean for me? This is a very reflective process. What did I learn from it? What do I do differently as a result of that experience? Who did I impact? Who did I encounter in the process? How is this going to affect the way that I show up in college and go forward? And when you think about those things and reflect on your experiences and where you are now as a result of the different ways that you allowed yourself to explore and learn up to that point, those are the things that you want to make sure to really showcase in your college applications. So as you go through this process and start thinking about, what do I want to get involved with? What do I want to be doing? What kind of projects do I want to do? What kind of causes and things like that? There are 4 mistakes that we often see that we want to encourage you to try to avoid. One of them is taking the checklist approach. A lot of times the first question is, what do colleges like? What will make me look impressive? And this is absolutely the worst way to approach it, because you're trying to fit a script instead of trying to develop yourself. The best approach that you can take to your preparation for college admissions is to really be in a process of growth and learning and figuring things out for your own unique journey. So they don't want to see the same everything just because someone else has it and they got in somewhere. That means that you should do it too. They want to see you figuring out what is the must-do thing for yourself. The other thing is that you want to try to avoid fitting the mold. You don't have to sacrifice your other interests and hobbies. I see this a lot with students who may have an interest in STEM, for example, or, or medicine or something like that, where they may also have an interest in music. They may also have an interest in creative writing, and they start to feel like, do I have to give up this these dance lessons and performances that I've been doing all these years in order to make room to show them that I'm really focused on medicine? Do I have to give up, my creative writing in order to be a strong science student? And no, you do not. We always encourage you to continue to build upon the things that energize you and excite you. A lot of times it can be an added dimension to what you are trying to show colleges about your actual interests. So you don't have to throw away the things that make you unique, the additional factors that add color to your life and color to your perspective. You can keep those things and continue to grow in those areas as well. The other thing is to focus more, is when people focus more on a title and less on the impact. Again, leadership is not just a title. Leadership really is about ways that you contribute to others, the way that you take initiative to solve a problem, create a project. You saw something that needed doing and you did it. Or you saw something that was lacking and you helped to fill the void and you invited other people to do it. And none of these things require you to have an official title. And so that's something that's very important to keep in mind when it comes to thinking, how do I demonstrate and practice leadership? What is something you can do to that isn't already being done? Also, not giving yourself enough time is, one of the mistakes you hope to avoid. Starting early does help, But if you do find yourself in junior year not having really thought about this and you just kind of have the experiences that you have, I would encourage you not to throw that away, but think about, here are the things that I have in hand. What are ways that I could use this to connect with more people, to help somebody, to solve a problem? Think about what you already have and think about how you can maximize those experiences as well. But starting earlier definitely helps. And then you make the best out of what you do have if you find yourself at a later stage. And so quickly, I just want to cover when we talk about how to spend school breaks. It's so interesting when we talk about summer plannings, you get the sense that a lot of families feel like summer activities are their own thing. Like when the admissions officers are reading activities lists, they're like, okay, how many of those were summer experiences? Did they do everything they could do in a summer break? And so the first thing I want to share about this is that school breaks are significant, mostly just because it's more time that you have. It's time when you can choose to do things without it competing with your ability to do well in class and do well in school. It's just more time. But when admissions officers are reviewing your reviewing your activities list and your applications, they're not, those 10 activities you choose to highlight in a Common App, you're not going to be deducted points if X amount of them are not summertime versus during the academic year, or if it's not a specific program. As we said from the beginning, there's lots of ways to spend your time. And the reason why we end up talking about school breaks is just because that's when you have the most time. And so one of the ways that many people choose to do it is through structured summer camps or programs, like these that we have listed as examples, or it could be pre-college programs. It can be something local in your community. A lot of times people find that the structure helps them because they sometimes feel at a loss for what to do on their own. So for some people, this is ideal. For others, it may not work as well for them, but this is definitely an option that can be beneficial. Another one is to get a job or do an independent project or to take some time to spend to learn more about something that you're interested in that you can't learn about in your classroom. And so, in other words, thinking about what I want to grow in and what goals I want to accomplish, what skills I want to practice or develop, and just finding an opportunity to do that on your own terms is something that can be beneficial. Admissions officers love to see kids just have a job, right? It doesn't have to be the most inspirational job ever, but working in a local pizza shop, you learn to do business, you learn to problem solve and deal with conflict resolution. You learn to, teach other people sometimes if you're helping to train. There's any number of skills that someone can demonstrate through something like that, as well as the personal projects, or as well as making the decision to spend time to prepare yourself academically or grow in a certain way. These are all things all skills and things that you would have to be in control of doing when you are a college student as well. So you can demonstrate that as a high school student. Another way that you can spend your school break is to use it to get ahead in your college research. This is a good time to do college visits for a lot of families during school breaks because it's harder, of course, during the school year. So if you're able to travel and use some of that time to visit colleges and start to get a sense of what might be a good fit for you, that can be great. And also you should relax. Being a balanced person is valuable. There's a lot of different elements that you're managing throughout the year. And if you want to show up as your best person, if you want to demonstrate this excellence like we're talking about, you have to take care of you. That is absolutely a priority throughout the entire process. Ooh. So with that, I'm going to hand it on to Belinda.
Wow, thank you so much, Hanifa and Anita. That was really informative. I can see all of your questions pouring in right now. Some of your questions are asking for a little bit more information about Collegewise and how we support families. So I'm going to spend 1 minute wrapping up on that and answering some of those questions. And then we'll jump into the Q&A for our speakers, and I'll start sharing some of those questions with them. So I know you've heard a lot of helpful insights today. But you may be sitting there feeling a little bit overwhelmed and wondering, okay, but what does this actually mean for my student, or what does this mean for me? And that is really what we do at Collegewise. As I mentioned earlier, we've been doing this work for 26 years, and in that time, we've helped thousands of families to navigate this journey. We strongly believe as an organization that every student deserves a more simplified and successful approach to this process. So our goal is to create that safe space so that students can really tackle the process confidently. We can take the pressure off parents and guardians suddenly feeling like they have to become this college admissions expert in amongst all of the other many things that they're busy doing. So what amazing people like Anita and Hanifa do at Collegewise, and the hundreds of our other amazing counselors, is that they really help your family to press pause on all that noise. They help students to make really confident, intentional choices based on who they are, their strengths, their interests, and their goals. And then we help them build applications that reflect that in a really authentic and powerful way. So we work one-to-one with students through every facet of this college admissions process. But in addition to that, we also provide a lot of free resources. And I want to really reiterate that here if you missed the beginning. These free resources cover all aspects of the admissions process, or most. So please check out our website if you haven't already to track down those free resources so that you can get the help that you need with this journey. So I'm going to launch a quick poll now. And the question here is really just for us to understand how we can best help you going forwards. So are you interested in learning more about potentially working with Collegewise one-to-one? Are you just here for the free resources? Or maybe you are an educator or a school counselor and you're looking for how Collegewise can support your school. We would love to hear from all of you to help us make sure that we are getting that best information across to you. So I'll leave that open for another 30 seconds. And whilst I do that, we can start diving into the questions. So first question to you is it too late to try and get into an intensive college such as an Ivy League if we haven't done much that's memorable and have an average GPA of 3.5 to 3.7? Okay, that's quite a specific question. What are your thoughts on that, Hanifa or Anita?
Most colleges will look at students individually, and we certainly do that at Collegewise too. It's kind of hard with just a GPA and to know what you think is that you haven't done much. You know, I think there's great colleges out there for everyone, and there are a lot more options than people realize. And people sometimes just think, oh, the Ivy Leagues. There's only 8 Ivy League schools out of 4,000 in the U.S. And so we have to be a little careful about what we're talking about in terms of goals. So it's a very complicated question. Like I said before, no college will just look at the GPA. They're looking at the entire transcript. What classes did you take? How did you do in them? What kinds of choices were available to you? And what kinds of choices did you pick based on that availability? And yeah, from there, you know, you're crafting an entire application, right? So it's not just your grades, but really what classes did you take? What activities did you do? How is your writing? What are your test scores? You know, there's a lot of different factors.
All right. Next question. In a competitive scholarship, what areas do colleges look at most to determine who does and doesn't receive that scholarship?
Again, it varies so much. Go ahead, Hanifa, please.
No, I'm sorry. Yes, it varies so much. So it's if you're talking about a competitive scholarship, a lot of ways they're similar to the asking what do colleges look for. It depends on what the scholarship is for. It depends on what the eligibility requirements are. What are they measuring? A lot of times that information is part of the scholarship platform or website. They'll tell you what they're looking for. So it really just depends on what scholarship that you're talking about. For example, some may have a heavy emphasis on leadership in your community or service. Some may want to see a certain level of scholarship, academic scholarship within a certain area. It really does depend on what those scholarships are and what their eligibility criteria is.
Okay, thank you. So somebody is asking, how important are awards and competitions?
It really, really varies. What kind of competition, what kind of award. Again, colleges are interested to know, what are you curious about? What are you challenging yourself with? And then what is that impact? So for instance, I had a student who, very, very high level robotics. He ended up going to 2 international competitions for robotics. And that was an incredible feat, right? But most students don't do that. It did help him get into some very highly selective schools. So it varies a lot. I have another student who's an artist. She's been doing art since she was a little kid. She has no desire to do art in college, but she, does competitions for the fun of it. And it's something that she enjoys. Is it going to make a difference on our college application? Maybe. It shows that she's a really interesting person, a curious person who has a lot of different interests. She wants to go into medicine. So is the art gonna, does it directly translate to medicine? Maybe not. But is it show that she's just a well-rounded, interesting person? Yes, definitely. And maybe people, some schools will really value that. So there's no right or wrong. There's no yes or no. There's no checklist. You really have to think about what are you most excited about and try to follow your nose is what I say. Just follow what makes you curious and happy.
One thing I'll just add to that is that if you make your whole extracurricular experience pursuing specific awards, you may run the risk of not allowing yourself to get the full benefit of really just having experiences that grow you in a certain way and allow you to show and demonstrate different skills. So I would say, trying to build a whole profile of awards, may not necessarily replace just trying to have an experience that will help you to grow or learn a thing. So in that way, it'll be ultimately not just that you won an award, but what you can also say about the experiences that you've had along the way.
Okay, thank you. So how do colleges look at applications from homeschooled students differently from those who go to normal high school?
Homeschooling students, one thing that's different about their experience is that they don't have as much standardized, structure for, or they don't always, right? There's a lot of variety in the way that students homeschool. And so one of the things that can be helpful with those, it's a great opportunity in some ways in that students have a lot of room for experiences and experiential learning. That can often show up in those applications depending on the student and their approach. But one of the things that we would encourage for students who have who are homeschooling is that you do take advantage of standardized testing and experiences that allow them to see how you perform academically against a metric. Those types of scores can become a little more significant for homeschooling students if they don't otherwise have a way to demonstrate how they can perform against a set metric. Do you want to add to that, Anita?
No, that's great.
Okay. So somebody is asking, is it okay if I have 2 very different interests that I would like to explore in college?
Yes, definitely. We know that most students will go into college thinking that they want to do one thing, but they might change their mind. Actually, most students do change their mind about their major, and it's good to pursue a couple of things. You don't want to be too distracted by pursuing too many different things, but I think it's okay to say, you know what? I have these two different interests. I want to pursue them both and see where they lead. It might be that one ends up being a major related to your career. Maybe one's a minor. Maybe one doesn't make it, into your transcript, but you pursue it on the side. We don't ever expect students to have just one interest. It's better for you to have multiple interests, and that's very normal.
Okay, wonderful. Well, I think that's probably all the questions we're going to have time for. So thank you so much, everybody. I'm going to hand back to the ACT to close us out here, but it's been wonderful to present to you all.
Thank you so much, Collegewise, and to our incredible presenters tonight, Belinda, Hanifa, Anita. Your insights are so valuable. I know it really helps students as they're thinking about their future and exploring all the different options. We so appreciate you being here with us and helping further our mission of supporting students and their champions. Just a few last things before we say goodbye. When our webinar ends, you're going to see a survey that pops up, and we'd appreciate it if you can take 5 minutes to let us know how we did and how we can best support you in the future. If you'd like to view this webinar again, you will receive it via email, and you'll also see it available on our website in a few days. On behalf of ACT and Collegewise, thank you again for joining us, and we'll see you at our next My Journey event, March 3rd, 6:30 p.m. Central Time. This one I'm really excited about. It's all about AI in college admissions. What's risky, what's not, and what colleges think. Thank you so much.